What's going on, guys? My name is Jake.
I'm Jesus.
This is your Body Comp Prescription, where we help you navigate through all things health and fitness. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at BodyCompRx. We're not your doctors, we're not your nutritionists, so keep that in mind as we start the conversation. You want to
Yeah.
right into it?
Yeah, guys, welcome. So this episode, this video is gonna be a great one. We've all been in this situation, right? So you're at the movies or you're at home watching a movie. It was a recent like superhero movie or kind of like any movie to be honest, and you see this actor, right? There's this scene where this actor, for whatever reason, this dude has to be shirtless when doing this scene.
It's a must.
And he's either picking up a hammer, he's in a fight scene, and this guy looks shredded, right? And first thing I think at least my initial reaction is jaw dropped, right? You're just sitting there in awe, like, oh my god, like this guy looks shredded like crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know, have you experienced this before?
Yeah, the first time that I experienced this was it was a movie called The Wolverine, so part of the X-Men franchise, but it was a Wolverine solo movie, right? And it's Hugh Jackman. There's this one scene in that movie, if you've ever seen it, where he has an axe, right? So almost like a hammer, like Jesus said, right? He's chopping a tree, okay? So very manly. But you see every vein in this man's body as he's chopping the tree, right? If you were to put skin on top of an anatomy like image, that's what you would picture it would be. If your teacher told you to study innervations on a human, you pick Hugh Jackman from the Wolverine. And that was the first time that I was like, man, that's what I want to look like. I was a teenager, I don't even know, probably like 14, 15, something like that, right? As soon as that movie was over, I went home and I looked up Hugh Jackman workout, right? What did he do to achieve this physique, right? Like what did he eat? How did he train, right? And that was the first time that at least I was personally experienced that, where I really wanted to emulate what I looked like after someone that I saw in a movie. What
Dude.
about you?
So it's funny you say that because recently my family and we have rewatched the whole entire Avengers series. So that's why I brought up Hammer, because you see Thor, you see Captain America. I was like, dude, those scenes when they're shirtless, I'm just like, what? You know, and you just kind of like, damn, like, I think we all like these actors or, characters in these movies, and you're just kind of like, man, one day when I'm 30 years old, I want to look like that.
For sure.
You look up to
For
them,
sure.
right?
Of course.
So if you haven't caught on yet, today's episode is going to be on celebrities and what they have done to get themselves ready for these scenes that have gone viral, and like everyone knows exactly what we're talking about when we say Thor, Captain America, or the Wolverine, right? They're kind of just household names now, especially by the characters and their scenes. So yeah, guys, this is gonna be a good one.
Yeah, I think where I want to start this one is another. So I think I've mentioned quite a few times that I'm pretty like normally in tap with like one, movies, but two, fitness, right? As far as like fitness gossip, if that's what you want to call it, right? The one that really stood out to me, at least early on, was Michael B. Jordan, right? Michael B. Jordan for Creed and for Black Panther, right? So I remember watching an interview saying he's on Sway in the Morning, right? And is it Sway? Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was on Sway in the Morning, right? And he goes, I had to gain 24 pounds of muscle for Creed. Wow. Okay. And you hear that and you're like, wow, that's a lot of muscle. 24 pounds. Yeah. And at first you're like, man, he did look really good for that role, like I would believe that, you know what I'm saying? 24 pounds, especially if you look at his previous roles before that. I don't remember what he was in, but They would obviously B-roll to some other clips of him in previous roles when he's like 2 years, 3 years younger, and he's like skinny, like ectomorph, right?
Mhm.
If you are familiar with body types, we have three body types, right? Endomorph, ectomorph, mesomorph. He's ectomorph, which basically means he's a very like skinny, a little bit on the taller side, hard to put on muscle. That's the best way to describe an ectomorph, right?
Always been skinny.
Yeah. So he he says, I put on 24 pounds of muscle in a year and a half for Creed, right? And you think about that, is that even realistic? Because the guy was 27, 28 years old when he was filming Creed, right? And for those of you that don't know, we start declining in performance at the age of 27. That's when our testosterone starts shifting around, as far for at least for males go, and performance starts decreasing, right? You've already hit your peak generally, right? um, and he was able to put on 24 pounds of muscle in a year and a half. Now, for someone who was, let's say, like 17, 18 years old, I would buy this, right? Maybe not 24 pounds of muscle, but put on 24 pounds of weight. When they first start lifting, they first get their nutrition in order. They're maximizing their, what we call like newbie gains, right? Because they're introducing a new stimulus that's meant to change their body. Their hormones are at an all-time high in order to, acclimate to that kind of thing. And you can almost buy that for someone who's 17, 18, even 20, right? But when you say 24 pounds of muscle at the almost 30, right, that's unheard of. And if they're saying it's if they gain 20, if you gain 24 pounds like in general and not just muscle, like muscle and fat, makes it a little bit more believable. But he looked really good for this role. You've seen Creed, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
Black Panther, right?
yeah, dude.
So
Especially Black Panther is when I like really noticed it too, because I mean he's basically shirtless the entire time with all his little scars he has on his body.
right, yeah. So and it gets even more interesting once you get to the Black Panther side of things, because him and his trainer, they put on 24 pounds of muscle for Creed. After that, you at least go off of what he says in his interviews and stuff like that, and even his trainer as well. They put on an extra 20 pounds of muscle for Black Panther. Okay, so
Jeez.
put that into perspective. This guy put on 44 pounds in the span of about 2 to less than 3 years. 44 pounds of muscle. A person is lucky to gain that in their whole lifetime of bodybuilding naturally. Because
Yeah.
realistically, if you've been trained for a while and you work out a lot, you're gonna build maybe 2 to 5 pounds of muscle a year. And this is 5 pounds being on a really high end, meaning your diet is 100% in check. You're taking care of your training with progressive overload. And, everything that needs to be taken care of has been taken care of already. You can
Mhm.
gain maybe 5 pounds of muscle a year and with good genetics.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask you, do you think 44 pounds of muscle in, let's say, 3 years, you think that's possible
Mhm.
naturally?
I was no, no, and you know what? I know the route you're about to. I know what you're about to say. I could feel it coming, but right before
Mm-hmm.
you say that, I wasn't say this until a little bit later. But I think to the untrained eye, someone might say, "Oh, well, I mean, all he did was turn his fat into muscle, right?"
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this may be a topic for another time because we could dive deep into this, but you don't turn fat into muscle.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Gaining at least just the first initial 24 pounds of just pure muscle, that is hard.
Oh yeah.
That is not easy. It's yeah, like how Jake says, sometimes it takes a lifetime. It's and I know he has the money, he has the resources, um, but this just 24 pounds. Like if he would have said maybe 5 years, I'm like, okay, maybe,
Yeah,
right?
maybe he put on like, like 10, 15 pounds of muscle and then like 10, 10 pounds of fat over like 4 or 5 years. Yeah, I would, maybe buy that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it's pretty hard to believe. So, and what I want to mention is, if you watch sports, right? This might put it into perspective a little bit. You watch sports, right? And anyone accepts any kind of award, right? Like an MVP. Let's say LeBron James wins MVP again, right? When he's giving his acceptance speech, he has to there's a list of things that he is like politically required to say as he accepts that award. This is an individual award, but I want to thank my coaches, my team, my training staff, my trainer. And he has to get that all out of the way because that's what's polite and that's what everyone wants to hear, right? No one wants to hear, I'm the best, I deserve this award, forget everyone else, right? And this is what it comes to with media as far as actors as well. So if you were to take Michael B. Jordan and put him on the late night show, any one of them, so what did you do? What did you do to get your 20 pounds of muscle for Creed, or 24 pounds of muscle for Creed and 20 pounds for Black Panther? How does one gain 44 pounds of muscle in 2 years? Chicken, broccoli, brown rice, and water. Because that's what everyone wants to hear.
Mm-hmm.
If you hear someone say that, they're either really bad at dieting and not knowing how to balance their life and eating things that they like alongside their diet, or it's code for anabolics. Okay? Because you can eat so many other things other than chicken, broccoli, and brown rice to, one, build muscle, two, lose weight, because that'll just make you psycho. I'm sorry. I don't care how many times you eat chicken, broccoli, and brown rice. It's gonna get old for you, whether it's tomorrow, 2 weeks from now, or a year from now. Because if he did that for over 2 years, he would have probably killed somebody
Yeah,
because of how like mentally insane he would have gone.
it's not fun. No,
No.
and those I want to mention those because I know we have some listeners who may not be familiar with what Jake just said. By anabolics, he means steroids.
Yeah. So anabolics meaning like exogenous forms of hormones or substances that um, enhance your hormones that you currently have in order to best optimize muscle growth, recovery, um, insulin usage when you're consuming food, stuff
Mhm.
like that. So, we have these hormones naturally in us, a lot of them, but like we said, as you start to age, those things start to decline a little bit, and that's just human nature. That's normal. But when you sustain, so imagine being that 18-year-old kid again, right? Acting like we're like 40, right? Um, Imagine we're 18, and that's when I at least made my most significant progress, right? I put on the most amount of muscle then. Imagine sustaining that for the rest of your life. That's what anabolics do for those of you that don't know. It's keeping you in that state of basically always having those beginner gains that you had. So imagine your best progress that amount of time, but for the rest of your life.
Mhm.
That's what they do.
And
Okay.
at a much faster pace.
Yes. 100. Yeah. Tons faster.
Yeah.
So, like, again, going back to Michael B. Jordan, you listen to these interviews, he's saying chicken, broccoli, brown rice. You watch another interview, he goes, no carbs, no sugar, no dairy. First of all, if he ate chicken, broccoli, brown rice, he was eating carbs. I'm not gonna. So there's already an inconsistency in what he's saying.
Mhm.
But maybe it was a different phase. Maybe there was a phase where he like cut carbs or something like that.
Yeah.
But this is a diet that's so restrictive that it's going to be so unenjoyable, and it's not the only way to get there, right? And the reason that we're saying this is because we were those people, and sometimes still are. We watch a movie and we see someone's physique like crazy impressive, right?
Yeah.
And we're like, man, I want to look like that, but we got to remember that this whole physique change, our body composition change, whatever our goal may be, it's supposed to be a long-term process.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So um is there anyone that you want to talk about as far as like
Yeah.
transformations?
So
I know you mentioned like Thor, for or Chris Hemsworth for Thor.
hmm
um
yeah, so I think right before we jump into, I do want to talk about Chris Hemsworth Thor, but I think you bring up a really good point because you know I think Black Panther and Creed with Michael B. Jordan, like he did a what Jake and I are talking about, he did a stunning job. We're big fans of the movies,
oh yeah,
right?
100%.
I would, any time of day you put on this either movie and I'll be like, all right, cool. I won't complain. It's just that luckily because we have a background in this field, we are able to really recognize um the things he says and break it down like, well, you're saying you did this in a year and a half max. I don't know about that one.
Yeah,
But yeah, Chris Hemsworth with Thor is another one. So for the Marvel series, it was put out there that he put 20 pounds of muscle when he became Thor,
that's
and
like the magic number. Always, it's
yeah,
always like
right,
20 some.
yeah. And you know what? I just looked it up right now. This guy Thor, Chris Hemsworth, he's 37, right? 37 years old. He started doing Thor about 10 years ago, right? So that puts him around 27, right around the same time as Michael B. Jordan, right? And
Mhm.
just how Jake talked about, you know, we naturally start seeing, for example, like Jake said, like we have like our testosterone levels and insulin, like we see all of this naturally decrease. And so that's why we're kind of like having this conversation, because it's kind of like, we we condemn them for having a great physique and killing their role, but it's also like, what, 20 pounds, 44 pounds of muscle, right? Ridiculous. And so I was there was an interview with Thor's trainer, or Chris Hemsworth trainer, right? And he says, he claims it was all the red meat, some heavy weights, and a lot of protein powder. And then he said, consistency is key.
Mm. Mhm.
Bro, I'm telling you, you're telling me all I have to do is eat red meat every single day and lift some weights, and I'm gonna look like Chris Hemsworth and Thor,
Yeah.
then that's also another thing I want to bring up. If there was a magic pill, or somehow someone solved the mystery on how to get jacked, how to get ripped, you and I would be sitting here ripped.
Dude, everyone would look like
Everyone,
Greek gods. We would all look
everyone.
like mythology
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, and then that's kind of like why we're having this conversation today, right? Because it's like, like some of the things they're saying, how Jake says, they're politically correct. They're telling us what we want to hear. They're saying, all you got to do is eat clean, eat lots of protein, and you're gonna look like this. And I almost feel bad because those who like I said earlier, the untrained eye is just gonna take this and go back home and be like, oh, go serve me some meat today, go serve me some meat for lunch, dinner, every single day for the rest of this week. And then in between those meals, I'm gonna take a scoop of protein powder and bam, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So go ahead.
I want to propose a question, and this will be for you, Jesus, but for anyone that's listening, I want you to answer this question, okay? So you're Chris Hemsworth, all right? Chris Hemsworth, great physique, good genetics, very good genetics. They say Marvel comes to him and says, "We need you to be Thor." Okay? Multi-million-dollar deal. All right? We need you to get big. Cool? Anything it takes. You need to get big. You want people to believe you're a superhero? You need to do whatever it takes.
Yes.
If I offer you $10 million right now to take anabolics to look like Thor, would you do it?
Let me put it this way. You're offering me 10 million? Or wait, are you saying you're offering me 10 million, or am I going to pay you 10 million for those anabolics?
No. I'm offering you $10 million to play the role of Thor, to change your career, right? Not only be in one solo movie, be in your own series of movies, be in all the collaborative movies of Marvel, and it changes your career forever. Because now Chris Hemsworth is on the map.
And he's worth more than that.
Would you be willing to do a 6-month, 8-month cycle of test?
Dude, I don't think anyone is dumb enough to say no to that, you know? And I think that's the thing. It's just like, you know, maybe he didn't, or maybe he did. That's why we're having this debate. But the outcome of that, this guy's worth a lot more than that now. He's forever changed.
But the only caveat, if you say yes, you can't tell anyone that you're on anabolics, or you're cut. You're cut.
Yeah.
And where does the chicken, broccoli, and rice come in? Right here. Okay. Except they said red meat, protein powder, and what else? Heavyweights.
Heavyweights, yeah.
And heavyweights. Because if Chris Hemsworth were to go on to a talk show, right? And he said, "Oh, well, I took 5 milligrams a week of test, Deca, and any other anabolic you can." That was my Chris Hemsworth impersonation. I hope you all enjoyed that. If he were to say that, his contract gone, his role gone, his image ruined forever, because steroids are so like frowned upon, right?
Yeah.
You know,
everything gets ruined, and it's kind of like, which you know, and I think this is another topic too, but you know, in certain like sports or certain events, it should be frowned upon. You know, we're not, by no means are we saying that is okay. You know, we're not saying taking anabolic steroids is okay. We're not promoting that at all by any means. But we're also saying, like, if you're in his position, then, you know, we're saying, would we probably do the same thing? Yeah, probably, you know?
Yeah. I mean, so, like, and I think you have to look at it from another perspective too, right? Because we're already saying that we would probably do that if we were in that position, you know, and I don't know what everyone else's answer was to that question, but you know, it's a really hard question, right? But there's also no downside for it politically. Health-wise, different story, but for his publicity, his image, there's literally no downside. Everyone sees him or any of these actors, right, with crazy transformations. They see, wow, this guy gained this much muscle in this much time for this movie, and you pick up a copy of Men's Fitness or Men's Health magazine, and his trainer says, all you got to do is 30-minute workouts a day with circuits, weights, and you too can look like this person, right? Oh, I'm all in, right? There's no downside because majority of people don't think it's anabolics. Not that takes away any bit from the role, because again, all these people that we're talking about are people that we like watching. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, you know, I think if Chris Hemsworth didn't take any anabolics, we're not saying that he did, but assuming that he was enhanced for his roles, If he didn't do that and he looked like normal Chris Hemsworth, I don't know that I would buy his role as much. You know,
Yeah.
like I wouldn't believe that he would sell it as a character as much. You know?
No, because I mean, I think we'll get into this a little bit later today, but you know, if you don't take these performance enhancement drugs, you you end up looking like an average Joe, and you know, there's other characters out there who probably didn't take, you know, anabolics, and they don't really get talked about. They have nice
Mhm.
physiques, but they don't get talked about, right?
Well, yeah. The thing that I want to mention too is that anabolics don't just like skyrocket you to the moon as far as your goals go. There are a lot of people out there that take anabolics that are no name people, right? And look terrible.
Yeah.
It doesn't guarantee it doesn't guarantee you the best results possible, right? It just accelerates what you were meant to look like, assuming that you had that kind of natural availability of these hormones, right? I know plenty of people that have taken steroids that, I mean, you know, maybe bigger than me, but I think objectively don't really look that good, you know, disproportionate, um, moody, you know, like there are consequences that come with it.
Hmm.
But again, for
Yeah.
the sake of a movie role, you know, you say you have to do a 6 month cycle every time you play the role. I'm in, you know, I'm
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, no, I think also one thing I wanted right before we move on to someone else, I want to mention that, you know, um those who are taking anabolics, you know, probably I would argue have to work the hardest when they work out and diet and train, because in order to fully get all the benefits that are supposed to come with taking anabolics, you have to put in the work. You know, these
Mhm.
people have to train every single day, watch their diet, or else you're basically taking it for no reason, and it's not gonna do you any good. You're just gonna
Yeah,
look like an average Joe.
yeah, and you know, if this sounds familiar, it's because it's very much, obviously it's not the same equivalent of a supplement, but right, if you want the most out of a supplement, you have to be doing everything else right too,
Hmm.
right? To best optimize that purpose or that, you know, outcome of what either an anabolic or performance enhancing drug or a supplement can give you. They don't they don't cover up your mistakes, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and again, right before I move on to somebody else, going back to Michael B. Jordan real quick, um, you brought up a good point saying that everything has to be perfect, right? You know, and you have to work really, really hard, right? Michael B. Jordan for his role for both, we'll talk about for Creed because that's, I believe, a more physically demanding role than Black Panther was.
Yeah.
He said he was training 6 times a week, already a lot. He said he was doing 2 hours a day of weights, a lot. He was doing 2 to 3 hours of boxing work, a lot. And then he was doing another 2 hours of choreography, basically more boxing. So this guy is doing upwards of 6 hours a day of physical activity 6 times a week.
Hmm.
Your body can't sustain that. That's what we call overtraining. And that's another benefit of taking anabolics is it covers that up because you are able to recover a lot quicker. You're able to push your body to those limits that you wouldn't normally be able to do. It obviously it takes a strong will, strong mindset, but
Hmm.
you're you're not able to recover that fast. Eventually, he would have been broken down. He would have gotten injured, something like that, if he didn't take those things. So
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, so I think that's great point. Did you have another example of someone
yeah,
similar that had
yeah.
a
So I maybe not everyone that listens to this follows my personal account, but I asked everyone who who do you think had some of the best transformations as far as you know, physiques for movie roles go. Someone mentioned Zac Efron, so if you mentioned Zac Efron, shout out to you. Um, um, but Zac Efron for Baywatch, right? So you watch Baywatch, right? Have you seen it?
I have not technically seen it, but I know exactly what you're talking about because when that movie came out, it was everywhere.
Yeah, it was the talk of the town, right? Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you hear Zac Efron is shirtless in a whole movie alongside The Rock. Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's great, um, but you look at his physique, um, super dry, super lean, his muscles nice, like they're nice and developed, right? And you go back and look at again his previous roles because that's how you can best judge what this person is capable of, right? So we all know Zac Efron from High School Musical, right? He was a kid then. You see him in 17 again, basically the same role without singing, but he always ends up shirtless somehow, right? And he's a very like lean person, like naturally
Athletic.
yeah. He's like in between, like he's kind of like a mesomorph. So mesomorph meaning like he can build muscle maybe a little bit easier than a lot of people because of his genetics maybe, but he's never a super huge guy, always super lean, right? And I don't know if you remember this, a few years ago, I don't know if it was MTV or what, but it was an award show, right, where he goes up to accept an award, and then whatever female person that was presenting the award to him ripped his shirt off. You remember that?
I don't
Okay.
actually.
For all the ladies out there, I'm sure you guys do.
Oh yeah, they're like, oh my god, of course I know what you're talking about.
I watch that clip every week. Every single week I watch that clip. But you see that he's still really lean, but nowhere near as muscular as he is in Baywatch.
Mhm.
And he gained 10 pounds of muscle for Baywatch, according to him, right?
Mhm.
A lot more respectable number as far as
Mhm.
like more believability,
Mhm.
instead of 24 pounds.
Yeah.
But again, to the untrained eye, he looks really, really good, regardless of what your current physique is. You look at that physique and you just say, wow, that's a good physique, like
Mhm.
he can compete in like a physique competition if he wanted to. May not win, but looks really good. But he also claimed to do no carbs, clean diet, 6 months, 8 months, was training, and you just don't put on that kind of muscle in that short of a time frame. He's also super tan for that role, which is best for physiques. Oiled up in between every take,
Mhm.
pumping up before every take. It's just it's not very believable. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not saying he took like the most insane cycle of performance enhancing drugs, but again, Zac Efron is no longer, a teenager. He's not getting up there, but he's older now.
He's a grown man.
Yeah, you can't do that at that age anymore.
Yeah.
So, like even with the best genetics, even with a good physique, you have to look at previous roles and what their body type is and what their history says and figure out, is this really believable? Right? Knowing about how much muscle you can put on naturally within a short amount of time. Can you achieve that? Right?
Mhm.
Now, one thing that I want to talk about is someone out there may or may not be, but for the sake of the conversation, we'll play some devil's advocate, right? So Jake, when you're saying all this, right? How is it that some of these actors can keep this muscle if they're on anabolics? Because if you're taking anabolics for a 6 month, 8 month role, right, or prep time, and then you hop off of it, wouldn't that mean that you would lose a lot of your gains once you stop? It's a great argument. I know I came
Yeah.
up with it, but it's a great argument.
No, that's something I've thought about too.
right? And now another benefit that comes with this, right? We've already mentioned several times that once you hit a certain age, you experience declines in performance, testosterone level, hormone level in general. And you're not necessarily going to the average gym bro at your local LA Fitness saying, "Yo, hook me up. I'm trying to look like a movie star for I'm Chris Hemsworth and I'm going to LA Fitness asking some guy for a syringe." That's not how this works.
No.
For those of you that don't know, this is mainly a male. No, it's for female as well. HRT, or hormone replacement therapy, is something that's really common. For I only know this for males because it's a bodybuilding specific thing, but I would almost guarantee that it's a thing for females as well. But you're basically getting these anabolics under the control of doctors, because you go to an HRT clinic and you're basically saying, "Hey doc, I just need to look good for this role, right? I'm a little bit older now. I need some stuff." He goes, "All right, we'll prescribe you X milligrams of this per week. Anything else?" "Doc, I need to look really good for this role." "All right, fine. We'll give you something a little bit extra." "Doc, stop cheating me. Give me everything that I need, okay?" So, and they're regularly doing blood work, so they know that everything is still safe. And a lot of times what happens is once you start HRT, or hormone replacement therapy, you stay on it for the rest of your life. Not the same dosages that you may be going on for a role like that, but hormone replacement therapy is common for lots and lots of people. So because all you're trying to do again is sustain certain levels of hormones in order to best, perform, in fitness, in your daily life, as far as like recovery or, all that kind of stuff. So they go to doctors, get these anabolics under control, and then once they're done with the role, they just stay on them, and it's completely legal. It's not something that's like an underground thing that no one has to speak about. But again, that ruins their image if someone were to say, if Michael B. Jordan were to say, "Oh yeah, I'm on HRT. I regularly get an extra 100 milligrams of test a week because I'm 32 now. I don't even know how old he is, but his test isn't as what it used to be."
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. My best comparison for all the ladies that listen out there, I heard this from someone else. A male doing performance enhancing drugs is the same thing as a woman that wants to go get lip fillers, get a tummy tuck, get
BBL.
any kind of like physical adjusting surgery, right? It's the same thing. Right? But for some reason anabolics have such a high dislike rate. A lot of people discredit it like it's cheating or something. Right? But it's the same thing, right? If I'm a little bit overweight and I opt for the option of going to get surgery to remove any bit of fat that I want gone, it's the same exact thing. It's just the male version, so. But getting back on track, this is something that can be sustained, because again, these are not like 18-year-old kids that are going on anabolics. These are like men, and they arguably would need hormone replacement therapy anyways to help make sure that their normal hormone levels are being sustained. So that's how, like, if you see Michael B. Jordan post Creed, post Black Panther, be able to sustain a lot of what he did, it's probably because he's still on HRT. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, you bring up a good point, because if you don't mind, I'm gonna transition to the next person. But this next person you brought up in the intro, right? Hugh Jackman, Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
Same story. Put on lots of lean muscle in short amount of time. He claims to eat chicken, fish, steak, and always lots of protein. He said he had about 6 meals a day, no sugar, no alcohol, 3 hours of training per day,
Mm-hmm.
every single day. And that's literally the same thing we've been hearing with all other actors. But what's kind of different is that Hugh Jackman has gone on record to say that he has made it a lifestyle change. To this day, he's always training, he's always eating well, and Jake, just how Jake said, like, you need this. This is possible to maintain, but it's just kind of like a everyday thing. You're almost like kind of forced to make it a lifestyle change if you want to make sure you look this decent for this, when you're like 40 something years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Hugh Jackman is pushing 50 if he's not already in his
Yeah, I
50s.
said 40. I said 40 out of respect.
Yeah, like I love Hugh Jackman, by the way. I think he's a
Yeah.
fantastic actor, but you can't explain to me how his physique has gotten better over time.
Mm-hmm.
Since you watch X-Men 1, the guy's soft as a marshmallow. And every single time he gets a year older, 2 years older, he's getting leaner and leaner and leaner and more muscular. Yes, that is definitely attributed to, being consistent and, constantly training and constantly being on top of your diet.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, again, you can't just do that for a couple of months and expect Wolverine kind of results,
Yeah.
like you you get a little bit of extra secret sauce when you do something like that, right?
Yeah.
But definitely that's a really good point, because especially someone who is um on the older side of the people that we've talked about today. um when you look up these diets and you look up these training regimens, right? It sounds as simple as chicken, broccoli, rice, and training, and doing compound lifts, because that's all what they all say, right? They're like, oh, deadlift, squat, bench, and then you know whatever muscle groups they want to work on for their role. That sounds easy, right? But it's not that easy. And if you really want serious results, right, quality results with good muscle sustained over long periods of time, to lose your body fat, you got to make sure that this is a long-term deal, right? Because that's how you best optimize that change. Because if you um you know yo-yo back and forth between overweight, lean, right? There are some other examples of this, that people brought up when I asked, on my Instagram story. A couple of people brought up, Christian Bale, right? Christian Bale for, The Machinist, right? And
Yes.
I actually haven't even seen The Machinist, but this is a pretty infamous role for Christian Bale because of how much weight he lost. And right after that, he became Batman. You know what I'm saying? So like these are not super sustainable things. Like you can't go from starving yourself, and eating nothing, drinking nothing to lose weight, because it's not going to give you the results that you want. And two, you can't just like bulk and cut on demand in 2 month, 3 month periods.
Mm.
I mean, you can, but for the average individual, for the people that are like me and you, Jesus and Jake, right? We can't be doing that kind of stuff because it's not realistic. And then at the end of the day, we're not going to be happy with our end result. If I hardcore cut out my carbs and cut out everything that I love about eating, I'm going to hate life, and it's not going to give me the progress. Like it's
Mhm.
it. And then as soon as I reintroduce those things back into my diet, I'm going to go back to the exact same way that I looked. you know so making those consistent changes for the long game is obviously what we recommend throughout all of our episodes, if you haven't heard those by now. But you know the last person that I want to talk about, because I think this is the most ideal and the most relatable transformation, from everyone that we talked about, and a lot of people that maybe we didn't talk about as far as celebrity transformations go. is Chris Pratt, right? I got introduced to Chris Pratt through Guardians of the Galaxy, Jurassic World, obviously very big movies. And everyone's talking about how he had this crazy transformation and he got lean for those roles and he looks really, really good for these roles, right? But before that, he was on Parks and Rec, and he was like known for being like the funny chubby guy, you know. And then again, you go back to his other roles. He was in like Zero Dark 30, where he had to be like a Navy SEAL and he had to be lean, and he even went on record and said he lost 60 pounds for this role by, you know, running 3 miles a day, working out for multiple hours a day, restricting his diet, and he looked decent. But what happened is, as soon as he stopped doing that for that role, he went exactly back to the way he was, which is what we're saying, you know, like you can't pick and choose, you know. But once he started the transformation for Star-Lord and, you know, in Jurassic World, that's when he started to have a more healthy relationship with his body, with his food, and that's why Chris Pratt today looks very similar to how he looks like in those most recent roles. You know, he even said notoriously that he's known for dropping weight for a movie and then going way back up for another movie and going way back and forth, and that's a lot of us, you know. Like we go on a cut because we want to look good for our summer vacation, and then as soon as we come back, we went right back. So that 2-month, 3-month period was basically a waste of time. You know, your body rebounds like crazy. But, you know, Chris Pratt, again, similar to Hugh Jackman, made lifestyle changes, right? Like he's still training every week, maybe not as intense as he was during his movie roles, for those movie roles, still dieting, but it's more become his nutritional habits as opposed to being on a diet. And, you know, like this is the best way to emulate, or this is the best person to emulate as far as their diet and nutrition goes, right? Because Chris Pratt's physique for Star-Lord is very impressive still. And I would 100% believe that he did that naturally. You know, it's not like you see that him in that role, obviously good lighting, good editing, all that kind of stuff, but like that's something that you can do naturally, because he didn't put on tons and tons of muscle. He probably put on a little bit of muscle, but what he did was he just shed off all of his layers to reveal that, you know. And the interesting thing about Chris Pratt that you may or may not know is that Chris Pratt was, when he was overweight, he had actually said that he was dealing with like mental health issues. Like he said that he was like, he said he was depressed, and he was kind of like not confused, but like he was in a really dark place during that point, right? And going back to his other roles, you can see in his early 20s that he's actually a really athletic guy. Like I don't remember all the movie titles because I've never seen them before, but watching some of these clips of him as like a 25-year-old guy, he's in pretty good shape, you know. And I think what happened is he just, you know, like a lot of us do, we get in some of these periods that allow significant change to our physique, which is completely normal. But for his role, it's 100% believable because his genetics were there, and he put in the hard work, and he was consistent, and that's how he was able to maintain it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, you know, you gotta take a lot of these things into account. You can't just hear someone say, like the most recent one, which I won't go too deep into, is Kumail Nanjiani. Some of you may know, some of you may not know. He's an actor who's mainly known for a comedian, but he also just picked up, coincidentally, a role in the Marvel Universe. Crazy transformation. You listen to his interviews, he goes, no carbs, no carbs ever. And it doesn't have to be like that,
Yeah.
you know, because a lot of these things that they're not telling you are that they're also on other hormones and other things that help them achieve those things. So, you know, like, take the long game, you know, make sure you're taking care of yourself. And, you know, some of these physiques are attainable naturally. That's not what we're saying, that they're unattainable naturally, but they may take a lot longer than you would think, given what all these celebrities are saying, how long it took them. You know what I'm saying? We're not saying it's impossible to put on 20 pounds of muscle, 100% doable, but it may take you 10 years, not
Yeah.
8 months, you know? So, yeah, that's pretty much all I got. I think it was good to kind of talk about some of this stuff, because I know that this plays a really big role in, there's a lot of influence that movies have, that social media has, on how we want to look. Body image is super huge. So, when we see a Chris Hemsworth, when we see a Michael B. Jordan for these roles, we immediately want to go home, look up their diet and nutrition, or sorry, their nutrition and training, and we do that, and then we're like, damn, you know,
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 8 months and I didn't get that, you know. So that's pretty much it for me. Do you have anything else you want to say?
No, I mean, I think that's basically you did a really good job at wrapping that up. But we've always said this. It's a lifestyle change and it's a long journey. You know, and if you're listening to this and you're young, you're in your early 20s like us, or even if you're in your teens, you're in a really good spot. So if you want to be, as lean or build that kind of muscle, just know like it's gonna take you a few years, but as long as your plans you have everything planned out perfectly, you're doing everything you need to do, just trust the process and you'll get there. And if you're much older, that's totally okay too. I think it's just being realistic of how you eventually will look like. Don't expect results like to look like Thor, the next Michael B. Jordan, you know but just know like it's something that's going to be possible with the long period of time and patience, lots
Yeah,
and lots of patience.
yeah, for sure. I'm all good. I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. This was a much longer episode than usual. We are kind of
Mhm.
thank you for bearing with us and letting us rant a little bit and talk about some stuff that's still educational, but definitely more on the entertaining side of things. And thanks for everyone who actually submitted some answers on my Instagram and helping us out with some topics of conversation for this episode. But yeah, I'm all good. I think until next time,
Yeah,
peace.
peace out.